everybody, welcome back to our weekly live stream. My name is Alicia and today we're going to practice talking about the past in English. In this lesson, I'm going to focus on using used to and would, and we'll practice a little bit of simple past tense as well. So as you join, please make sure to like and share the video so other learners can find it. Also, please send a message in the chat so that we can say hi. And as today's lesson goes on, please feel free to send your example sentences in the chat, even if you're not watching live. We'll start in a couple minutes while we wait for everyone to join. A couple of announcements. Announcement number one. Free stuff as always. I've been trying to show you some of there are new PDFs from the link below the video on YouTube or above the video on Facebook. There are new ones there. I'll show you up close a little bit later, but please check these out. You can find this for free from that link. So take a look at the new PDFs and new vocabulary resources. That is announcement number one. Announcement number two is please send your questions to the Ask Alicia series. Just another quick reminder this week. This is a screenshot from a recent episode of our weekly question and answer series, English question and answer series called Ask Alicia, where you send me questions and I try to answer them as best as I can. So if you have not sent a question, you can send them for free to englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia. You can check out some past videos on the English Class 101 YouTube channel as well if you're interested in that. So please send me your questions. Advanced questions are okay. Lots of advanced questions, okay. If you have more beginner level questions, okay too. I highly recommend searching our channel to see if your question has been answered before as well. Okay, those are my two announcements. I see lots of people in both chats now. Hello, everybody. On YouTube, I see Mary in Vietnam. Hello. Jose, Oni, Salvador, Ramat, Axel, Oscar. Hello. On Facebook, I see Sophie, Afjal, Maria Nico, Meow. Hello, Bori, Fernando. Hello, everybody. Great. Lots of people are here. Fantastic. So, as I said, today's lesson is about talking about the past. We're going to focus today on the distant past. So distant past means a long time ago. So for most of us, probably childhood or maybe your school days as well. So that will be the focus for today's lesson. Okay, I'm going to share the video and then I'm going to start today's lesson too. We're going to begin today by looking at using used to, and then I'm going to talk about would, and finally I'm going to talk about how to use these together. So please send your example sentences throughout the lesson. I will try to check live. If I can't check live, very sorry. But let's get it started. Okay, let's begin by talking about used to. A common question first, the pronunciation. You will hear used to. This D sound is very short and soft. So we generally do not say used to. It sounds like used to. In writing, some people say it's okay to use this spelling, but others say, no, you should use this spelling. I'll talk more about this later. When you're talking about your own activities, you should say used to with this spelling. Anyway, I'll talk more about this point later, the spelling point later. For now, let's take a look at how we use used to. So, this is used to describe something that was true in the past. Something that was true in the past, but is not true now. So I've made a visual here. If you imagine this point, this star on the timeline is now. This is the present time. This is something, it's not true now, but a long time ago, here in the past, it was true. This is a check mark here. So I mean, that's yes, that's true. So this is something that was true a long time ago, but is not true now. So your childhood or your school days, when you were little. So We often use this, as I said, for those points in time, like your distant past, your childhood. And we can use used to without a specific time period. So we don't have to say, like, when I was a kid or when I was in school. Because when we use used to, it's often in a situation where we can understand from context. So we can kind of begin a conversation with a used to statement. I'll show some examples in a moment. Finally, this is a key point. A key difference between used to and would is this point right here. We can use used to talk about statuses. So statuses or conditions. That means we can use to be, like I used to be something, something. We can use used to with a condition or a status. This is a key difference because we can't do that with would. I'll show some examples. So let's look now at how we use used to make statements. So just making a basic sentence with used to. To do that, we use our subject. So that means I, he, she, we, and so on, plus used to, plus just the infinitive form of the verb. So no to, just the plain verb form, infinitive verb. So some examples. I, subject, used to, plus verb, play soccer. I used to play soccer. So one problem I see from learners sometimes is they change the verb to past tense. That's not correct. Do not use the past tense verb. Yes, I know it's a past action, it's a past thing, but for this grammar, we do not change the verb. Just by adding used to, we can make a correct statement. So please don't change your verb. I used to play soccer. That means I played soccer a long, long time ago. Now I do not play soccer. So used to communicates all of this in just those two words. I used to play soccer. Next example, he used to hate bananas. He used to hate bananas. So this is an example of like not necessarily an action, but a feeling. So you can talk about your preferences. What did you like? What did you dislike when you were a kid or far in the past? So in this case, my verb is hate. He used to hate bananas. So again, my verb does not change. He used to hate. He used to hate. And send your example sentences too. Describe something you used to do as well. I'll try to check live in the chat. Okay, next example sentence is we. We, this might be common for many people. We, it's hard to see maybe. I know many of you are watching on mobile. Sorry, I'll try to read clearly. We used to take a family vacation every summer. We used to take a family vacation every summer. So again, this means in the past, a long, long time ago, this was true. Now it is not true. So now we don't take family vacations every summer. That's what this communicates. The final example here, this is a status. So I mentioned we can use used to talk about a condition, to talk about a status. So I used to be a teacher, for example. I used to be a teacher. So here we've used be, yeah? So be is in the same place as just the regular verb, yeah? So this follows the same pattern as the other example sentences we looked at. I used to be a teacher. So we cannot use would in this way. This sentence means a long time ago, I was a teacher, but now I am not a teacher. That's what these all communicate with used to. Many examples are coming. I will check YouTube examples. Leah says, I used to hate avocados. Now I just don't like them. That's funny. Okay. Ramat says, I used to hate vegetables. Good. Okay. Walid says, I used to read storybooks. Good. Tika says, I used to fight with my brother. Great. John says, I used to sing country music. Good. Ed says, I used to drink rainwater. Really? Interesting. Arocha says, I used to be skinny. Is it correct? Yes, that is a grammatically correct sentence. Great. Shivdeep says, I used to go to school. Okay. On Facebook then, let's see. Ramzi has a question. Used to is like a habit. Habit or some kind of common action. So maybe you did it in your school days, your hobby, for example, or yes, a habit as well. So it's something that was regular for you a long time ago. So not just something that happened one time. We do not use used to for a one-time action. Something that happened regularly, like a habit. Okay, other examples from Facebook. I used to play video games. Great, very nice. Okay. I used to play games. I used to play video games. Yeah, me too. I used to play video games. I used to play hide and seek. Okay. Okay, there's some interesting examples on both sides now. Let's go to the last part for this part of the lesson. About questions. Sometimes you want to make a question with used to. It's not super common to make a question, like an information question, with used to. But here is how we do it. We use a WH question. So who, what, when, where, for example. So for example, what did plus your subject, so you, he, she, used to, and the infinitive verb. For example, where did you used to play? Where did you used to play? So this might be a follow-up question to this. I used to play soccer, says person A. Person B might follow up with, oh, where did you used to play? So this is probably something I would probably ask a simple past tense question, but you might hear someone use this pattern, like to recognize that the other person no longer, they don't do that anymore. You might hear this. Personally, I would probably use a simple past tense, where did you play? So it's kind of up to you. But right here, this is the spelling point that I mentioned earlier. In questions like this, where did you used to play? The D sound, like it's so soft when I ask the question, and you'll sometimes see people drop the D in spelling, like in writing, if you write this question to someone. So I've researched this, like is it correct, is it incorrect? And the general guide right now is you can choose, but always make the same choice. So keep in mind, this is questions only. So where did you used to play? If you're making a question, I've read some people say, it's okay to remove the D. Personally, I would prefer to keep it. I prefer to keep it to make it clear. Okay, last point here is this. So this, there are two here, actually. These are confirmation questions. So a confirmation question is a question you can use to check something. So we use did or didn't. We can use a positive or a negative to do this, plus our subject, he, she, you, plus used to, and the infinitive verb. For example, didn't you used to have a car? This is a very common way we use used to in a question. So we're checking, didn't you used to have a car? At native speed, that sounds like, didn't you used to have a car? So this means, I thought you had a car. Is that correct? That's what this means. We use this negative, didn't you, it shows like it's a question. So we're thinking, we use the negative instead of the positive. Did you used to have a car? Using the negative shows, I thought this was correct. Isn't it correct? Is that right? So didn't you used to have a car? Use a pattern like this to confirm something with someone else. Finally, you might hear a question like this too, where did or didn't is just gone. There's nothing here. Oh, sorry, it's hard to see. I'm covering it. My bad. You used to play basketball? And I have a question mark here. but you might hear this question asked like, you used to play basketball? Like when you feel really shocked or surprised, you learn something new about someone. You can use used to in that question. So you might say, you used to play basketball? I used to play basketball too. So that's a situation you might hear used to in this confirmation style question. Okay, good. We are going to take a break now. All right, I see lots of good examples. I used to stumble over words. Good. Okay, some good confirmation questions. Arocha says, didn't they used to be our neighbors? Nice. Good, good, good. I'll look for more in a minute, I think people are thinking. For now, a quick break. I said that there's new stuff for you to download. I mentioned that there are new PDFs. I will show you some up close over here. I thought for today's lesson, because we're talking a lot about like hobbies and things that were true in the past, I wanted to choose these two, which we'll see up close. Ta-da! This one, first, this is the leisure. This is hobby, a hobby vocabulary sheet. This guy. And on the back, right here, near the bottom, down here, there are vocabulary words, expressions. So these are verbs that you can use with today's grammar points. For example, I used to go to concerts, or I used to go to the theater, and so on. So these are some verbs you can use to talk about your previous hobbies. This is another one. If you are like me and you like food and cooking, this could be a good one for you. Again, vocabulary words. And on the back, these are verbs that you can use. Maybe with today's grammar point, they're less common, but there are some cooking-related verbs that you can use here too. So these are two new PDFs you can find from the link below the video on YouTube, above the video on Facebook. If you're watching on Instagram, please check YouTube or Facebook to get these. These are free from EnglishClass101.com. Okay, good. So let's get back to today's lesson. If you're just joining, today's lesson is about how to talk about the past with used to and would and a little bit of simple past tense. If you have not already, please make sure to like and share the video so other people can find it. Okay, let's go to part 2 then. Part 2 is about using would, how to use would to talk about the past and what's the difference there. So, would. So, I have this arrow here. This arrow means this part applies. So, at the beginning of this lesson, I said used to describe something that was true in the past but is not true now. This is the same for would. The same point is true for would. So, we use would to talk about something that was true before but is not true now. So, this is the same. We tend to use would with repeated actions. So repeated actions, for example, something we did every year or every day or every month or every winter. We tend to use would to talk about something we did with like some kind of like schedule, a regular schedule. So we can use used to talk about this too. But we'll often kind of give a little more detail when we use would. We use would when like the general time period or the general situation is known. So this is a bit different from used to. I mentioned with used to, we can like begin a conversation with a used to statement, like I used to play soccer and so on. But we can't really do that and sound natural with would. We don't really begin a conversation with, I would play soccer every day. It sounds a little bit unnatural. We understand, but usually we use would when we know some information about the time period or we know some information about the situation first. Okay, then this part right here is a key point. So I said over here for used to, we can use used to talk about a status, to describe a condition, like I used to be a teacher. However, we cannot use would to do this. We cannot talk about statuses and conditions. We can only talk about actions with would. So we cannot use it. If you want to say, like, make a be statement, please use used to do that. Okay. Oh, wow. Hey there, Manuel. Thanks very much for super chatting us. Awesome. We appreciate it. Okay. So let's compare now on a timeline using would. So this is the same idea as with the used to timeline, yeah? So this point here marks now. This is the present time. There's an X here. So something that is not true now, yeah? But in the past, like in the distant past, we did this. It was true. And I've put a few check marks here to show that this was a repeating action. So we did it every week, we did it every month, or maybe every day. Some kind of repeating action. It was part of our schedule. We did this thing a lot. We want to emphasize that. We can show that a little more clearly with would. So let's look at how we make statements. How do we make just a simple statement with would? Just like with used to, we use our subject, and we use would, and we use the infinitive form of the verb. So again, you do not need to change your verb for this grammar pattern. As I said though, when you make a sentence with would, or rather, when we make sentences with would, we typically combine, we put it together with some information about the time period. For example, when I was a kid, this is a very common one. When I was a kid, I would collect stamps and put them in a box in my room. I would collect. So I would collect stamps and put them in a box in my room. This is the regular action. So yes, I'm not saying like every week or every month, but because I'm using would, it feels like a repeated action. When I was a kid, I would collect stamps. So I know the time period, I know about when the action happened, and I know the action that I did a lot. I would collect stamps and put them in a box in my room. Okay, let's go to the next example then. The next example, we change the subject. So when he was in college, so this is not about me. Maybe it's about my family member or my friend. When he was in college, he would go out to crazy parties every weekend. He would go out to crazy parties every weekend. So again, past tense situation, yes, the verb does not change. So this verb, go, this does not become went. This is something that was true in the past. And in this case, I shared every weekend. So we know the frequency. This was something every weekend, happened every weekend. He would go out to crazy parties every weekend. Okay, and last example sentence, when she was little. This is another very common pattern you can use too, like when I was little. So that means when you were a little kid. So physically, when you were small, when I was little. In American English, we usually use little, not small. So when she was little, she would leave her clothes all over the house. She would leave her clothes all over the house. So yes, the verb here is leave, but it doesn't mean like leave a house. It means like to forget things. So like you place something somewhere and then you go away. So we use the verb leave to describe that. She would leave her clothes all over the house. So this is a repeated action. Again, here we don't know exactly how often it happened, but would shows us that it was a repeating action. Okay, I will check some examples now. Imon on Facebook says when he was in school, he would play piano. So again, infinitive form of the verb. Do not change your verb. When he was in school, he would play piano, and then it's perfect. Masaya, hey Masaya, we would hang out every weekend night. Good. So include some time period. Like when we were kids, we would hang out every night. Would be great. Yes, in the examples, what is the meaning of would? Would, I've just explained that right here. If you missed the explanation, you can check the video back. So we use it to talk about repeating actions from the past, from the distant past. Arocha says, when I was a kid, I would travel around the world. I would travel. So yes, infinitive verb. Yes, by that I mean just the verb, not the to. Do not include the to there. The infinitive form of the verb, if this helps. Infinitive form of the verb, not literally to plus verb. Someone says, I want to repeat this lesson again. Great, you can. You can watch it because it's being recorded. Check the channel later. Okay, I want to finish this point, and then the last point is done. Eric, I saw your message. I will check it later. This point here, I talked about questions with would. I talked about questions with used to. This would, we do not use generally. It's very rarely used for questions because we use would to make questions in a different way. So generally, if you want to ask a question about someone's past, we'll generally use just simple past tense to do that, and then you might reply by using would. So generally, we do not use would to make questions, actually. So don't worry about that. Focus on using would to make responses. Okay, some more examples are coming in. I saw something about vegetables. I missed it. Sopeli says, my parents would always make me eat vegetables. Very nice, very nice. Okay, good. So let's see. We have a few minutes left. I'll go to the last point because it's a lot of text, but it's quick, actually. Let's go to the last point then. How do we use these together? How do we use these together with simple past tense? So a lot of you say, like, how do I write a paragraph? How do I tell a story? Here's a really quick example that uses these grammar points plus simple past tense. So your steps, there are 3 steps to doing this that I could recommend for you to practice this. First, introduce your concept, introduce your topic with used to. So used to, remember, we don't have to include a specific time period with used to, but introduce your topic with used to, with maybe no specific time period. Step 2, give details, share a repeated action using would as I talked about. So give some details. And then step 3, end, so that means finish, end with a past tense statement. So if you're talking about a memory, you can end with a past tense statement, something that has finished. Or you can also finish with a present tense statement if you want to describe the situation now. So we'll finish today by looking at 2 examples of this. First example, I used to live with a really messy roommate. I used to live with a really messy roommate. So I used to live. This tells us already this is not true. This was true before. It is not true now. I used to live with a messy. So messy means dirty. They're not clean. A messy roommate, a really messy roommate. Second sentence. Every week, the guy would leave his dirty dishes in the sink and wait for me to clean them up. So every week, this shows the repetition with would, yeah? Every week, the guy. So that means the guy is this messy roommate. Every week, the guy would leave. So this is the same leave we talked about before. Would leave his dirty dishes in the sink and wait for me to clean them up. So this is the repeated action, right? Every week this happened. So I show that with would. And then my last sentence, I eventually moved out. I eventually moved out. Eventually means in the end. After a period of time, I moved out. Moved out means I left that house. I moved out. So this is a quick, very short example of using used to, then would, and then in this case, simple past tense, because I want to talk about just that memory. So after that, I moved out. I moved out. Okay, let's finish then with this last example. Again, I'll start with a used to statement. So, my parents used to live around here. My parents used to live around here. Again, used to shows this is not true anymore. My parents lived around here a long time ago. Now they do not. My parents used to live around here. When I worked in this neighborhood, so I do not work in the neighborhood now. When I worked in this neighborhood, I would go to their house every week for dinner. So again, I'm showing repetition with would, and I'm talking about the frequency with every week. Here, I would go to their house every week for dinner. Finally, here, my mom makes amazing food, and my dad is pretty good with a barbecue. So here, I'm ending with a present tense statement. The reason is I want to express my parents' skill now. I want to make a statement about, the situation now. So yes, the first two lines are a memory, but the last statement is just a fact. I want to end with a fact. So that's totally fine to do. So these are examples. First is sharing a memory, maybe a bad memory, and second is sharing some memories and the situation now. So these are three short, simple steps you can use to practice these points together. And I want to end today by saying, if you are not sure, should I use used to, should I use would, should I use simple past tense? One, you can follow these guides for used to and for would. And then for simple past tense, if you did the action just one time, use simple past tense. Just use simple past tense. I did that action. We use these to talk about habits, things we did a lot, things that were common. All right, a couple minutes to check a couple points. I haven't seen many questions, lots of example sentences though. Someone said, Danielson, I used to think that the day would never come, that my life would depend on the morning sun. Is that from something? It sounds like a poem. Okay, interesting. Sam on Facebook says, I used to read books. Now I don't. So if you want to say, if you want to emphasize that action is not true, you can say, now I don't, or now he doesn't, now she doesn't, and so on. Okay, I'm going to finish there for today, but we will be back next week. So I hope that this was helpful for you. Again, this lesson has been recorded, so please check the lesson after we're finished so you can watch everything and you can look at all of the points on the board too. Next week we'll be back. Next week's lesson is about English vocabulary for social media. Yeah, that's right. And it will be September 4th. Wow, it's already September. Oh my gosh. Wednesday, September 4th at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll talk about vocabulary for social media. So that means expressions you see on social media and expressions to use to talk about social media. So please join us live next Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for that. That will be a good one, I think. Also, please don't forget to get the new, exciting, very exciting PDFs from the link below the video on YouTube or above the video on Facebook. I showed a couple I thought were good for this week. This one, there's a lot of other ones. So check the link. I don't have time to share all of them. I think there's like 8 or 10 new ones. So check them out, see what you like, and download those for free. I will finish up there for today then. So thank you very much to everybody for sending your awesome example sentences and for liking and sharing the video. Please join us again next week and enjoy the rest of your week. Have a nice weekend. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.